Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of There's Still Time, the AFTN Soccer Show. I'm your host, Michael McCall, and we are bringing you a second podcast in a week. There was just so much stuff to cover. We already had a 3-hour show at the weekend. I didn't want to make it any longer than that. I thought that was really pushing it to try and go any longer. But in the last one, we kind of had very much Whitecaps focused. Looking at the 10th anniversary of the Whitecaps joining MLS. So if you haven't heard that yet, definitely check that one out. We've got some chats with Gerson Kofi and Russell Tybert. And to round off the last episode, we chatted a little bit about Canada's under-23 team in the Olympic qualifiers. But it's not just them that's in action at the moment. The main senior men's national team will be having 2 World Cup qualifiers later this week. So this episode of the AFTN Soccer Show, we're going to be turning our attention mostly to Canada, having a look at the roster that came out for Canada's 2 games against Bermuda and the Cayman Islands. We'll also be looking at the under-23s as well, and we've got finally time to bring back our travels in the TARDIS. But we're also keeping that with a Canadian national team theme as well. So John Herdman named his squad for the 2 World Cup qualifiers that are coming up in Florida this week. Canada take on Bermuda on Thursday the 28th. And that game kicks off at 5 o'clock Pacific time. Then 3 days later they're in action again against the Cayman Islands. And that one has a 1 o'clock kick-off time. Now, there'd been a lot of speculation in the build-up to this as to just what would Canada's squad look like. Would the European teams be releasing their players for it? There was all the travel difficulties, potential quarantine stuff when they got back to the countries they were coming from. We'd kind of heard a few different things, for example, around Jonathan David. League 1 and 2 clubs were saying that they weren't going to be releasing their players for international duty because of France's strict quarantine laws and the fact that the number of cases there are really on the rise. Then we kind of heard that players could possibly go to international duty if they travel by private plane. In the end, Jonathan David is one of the key omissions from the squad. But there's a few surprise names on it that I wasn't 100% sure were going to be on it or not. Leading the way in that regard, Alphonso Davies got a red card for Bayern Munich at the weekend. And as soon as that happened and he got a 2-game suspension, you were kind of thinking, well, no reason for him not to really come over for these qualifiers now, even with the quarantine. Yes, Bayern are still in a title race for the Bundesliga. They're still involved in Champions League action. But you kind of thought or hoped that Bayern would let him come over for this, and they have. And we'll hear a little bit from John Herdman shortly, but he confirmed that the red card didn't actually play into it, that he was going to get released anyway. So that is one good thing. Kyle Larin and Atiba Hutchinson released by Besiktas for this, so that was good to see as well. Larin in an absolutely fantastic rich vein of form for Besiktas just now in Turkey, banging the goals in left, right and centre. He scored 14 goals and had 4 assists in his 28 Super League matches, 3 goals from 4 Turkish Cup games, no goals in the Europa League, but he did score in the one match that he played in the Champions League this season as well. So, I mean, having him back in the squad, in the form that he's in, I think can only bode well. And it's absolutely fantastic to see Captain Canuck himself, 38-year-old Atiba Hutchinson, back in the squad. With his age, injuries that he's had over the years, the travel from Turkey, you would easily have forgiven him if he said, I'm going to sit these 2 matches out. On paper, the squad should be strong enough to get past these 2 opponents without too much trouble. You don't really need me for these games. I'm going to rest up and be good for the summer. But nope, putting his country first, coming over for these games, have to totally respect him for that. And it shows the true Canadian icon that he is. Goes without saying how good it is to have Atiba back in the Canadian national team setup, how good it is for the group with all the young guys coming through, the experience he can share, everything like that. So let's hear a little bit from the man himself, just chatting about coming into the group, what he's expecting from Canada, his desire to take Canada to a World Cup, and just why was it important for him to fly halfway around the world, to be part of these games, and get Canada's World Cup qualification for 2022 off to a flying start.
Is it difficult for a player of your stature to, if you like, get up for the games against the so-called lesser nations, especially if in your case it requires departing from a title-chasing club in a competitive European league like what you're involved in at the moment?
For me, it's not very difficult. I've always been a player that's, I've enjoyed representing, my country, and it means a lot for me, whether, it's the biggest game for Canada or the smallest. Just putting the jersey on my back, was a special moment. And now I'm at a stage where, like you said, I'm obviously fighting for a championship in Turkey with Besiktas, but haven't been with the team for quite some time now, around almost 2 years, and I've kind of missed it. So I'm excited about having that opportunity to represent Canada again, be with the boys, be in this environment again, and regardless of who it may be, I'm just excited to step on the pitch and play for Canada, and hopefully put in a good performance and get a good result for Canada.
You've been involved in the Canadian setup now for nearly 2 decades. On a personal level, what would it mean to you to help get this group to a World Cup? And I guess tied in with that, how long can you keep going? And if qualification for Qatar happens, do you see yourself still playing at the top of your game, approaching 40 when it comes round to Qatar?
Yeah, so I think for me to have any kind of involvement with helping Canada to achieve that and qualifying for a World Cup, it would be everything. I think that's something that's in my mind, I've always told myself that's missing in my career. I've achieved some things and played in some high levels and good stages, but that's always something that I've dreamt of playing in a World Cup or seeing Canada play in a World Cup. So it would be amazing and an amazing achievement. I don't know how much of an involvement I will have. It's still unclear. Now I'm just kind of taking it slowly and seeing how my body holds up, where my head's at. Like I said earlier, I'm a little bit focused. Well, a lot focused on what's going on in Turkey and fighting for a championship, but this, representing Canada is always something that's been in the back of my mind. And if I still, if I feel good enough and I feel like I can help out Canada in any ways, then I'll do that. So, like I said, we'll see how it goes a little bit further down the road.
You played a lot of football this season, and you played very, very well. What's been the key for you to maintain this type of form? And then building off of Michael's question, looking ahead through World Cup qualifying, just being around this group, do you feel that there's something different about the team, whether it's the approach, whether it's the talent, that makes you believe that this group has what it takes to go on and qualify for a World Cup? Thanks.
Yes. I think, for me to be playing at at the level that I've been playing at this season, I've always been someone that, really takes care of, my body. I try to listen to my body a lot and do what is necessary. And I've kind of really just found what works for me. So for me, it's, we're playing a lot of games. So it's about, playing the game and then just recovery. The training load is not very high. So it's mainly about games. And our games are coming around a lot due to, with the pandemic, they had to shorten the schedule of the season this year. So the games come around every, 3-4 days. And training's not too hard. So I make sure I'm ready for the games, do what I have to do, make sure my body's right. And after the games, it's back to recovering again. And I've just found a good, program on just finding the best way to be fit and to be healthy. And we're getting close to the end of the season. So I think, I'll finish off good and hopefully finish off good and then see what happens after that. But that's where I stand with my body and my mind right now. And in terms of, the team, I think we've got that feeling in the team where there's just a lot of confidence, as I've said before, we have a very, wide selection. There's a lot of new faces that I've seen, coming into this camp that I hadn't seen before. And in the past, you weren't able to have such a wide selection. So anyone that comes in, they know they're coming into a team that's, very confident right now, who have been playing some very good football over the last, 2+ years. And, just excited to be a part of it and add their qualities to the team. And, we have a lot of confidence, not overconfident, but just ready to go out there and fight for Canada and put Canada on the map where we feel that, Canada should be.
Great stuff from Atiba, great to hear from him. I tell you, if Canada makes it to the World Cup in Qatar, there's no way Atiba is not going to be part of that group. Don't know what his secret of youth is, but I just feel he could go on playing for a number of years. He's still in top form for Besiktas, chasing a Turkish league title, performing well in Europe when he's played for them. I tell you, he's still got a few years left in his tank yet. So Atiba's commitment to Canada has been clear since he made his debut way back in 2003, 18 years later, still proudly representing his country. An example to everyone. But on the flip side of that is Scotty Arfield, Canada's captain in recent times, with Atiba sitting out of some of the more recent matches. And he's a player that, at first, I didn't think would be coming over, because Rangers were obviously wanting to wrap up the Premier title. They were involved in the Europa League. But then they wrapped it up this month. They got knocked out of Europa League action by Slavia Prague. Technically, they still have 2 things to play for this season. They're going for an unbeaten season. They're also still involved in the Scottish Cup. But for Arfield to come over and then maybe have to go back and quarantine for 10 days back in the UK, it wasn't really going to derail their hopes too much. For a guy that is the captain of the squad, you expect him to come over. You expect him to be a part of this. And John Herdman was asked about it, talked about the fact that they'd had discussions. Arfield has decided not to hang up his international boots, as Steven Gerrard kind of hinted at last year, but he didn't want to be involved in these games. He wanted to keep himself fit. It was lower opposition, etc., etc. For me, a terrible example to the rest of the squad. A terrible example to some of the top players that you can pick and choose the games that you can play for your country. You can't. This is something we've seen with Canada before. It's something back in Scotland I've seen multiple times over the years. Players pulling out of squads and not playing games that they didn't want to play, or friendlies, or lower opposition like the Faroe Islands and stuff like that. You cannot pick and choose when you represent your country. You're either all in or you're not. And I'm very disappointed in Scotty Arfield, I've got to say. Now, if Rangers come out and say, we chose not to release him, fair enough, but it's kind of not sounding that way. One of the other big omissions as well is Jonathan Osorio, who picked up an injury on Sunday at TFC training, so that ruled him out as well. But I mean, aside from that, it's a very, very strong squad. You've got Milan Borjan, Maxime Crepeau and Dane St Clair as the goalkeepers. And I'm not going to go through the whole squad, but I mean, you've got the likes of Joel Waterman getting a big call-up for this. Great to see the BC boy with his rise from playing with Trinity Western and U Sports, onto the CPL with Cavalry, onto Montreal and MLS, and now involved in these World Cup qualifying squads for Canada. Sam Adekugbe, over from Norway. There's an interesting battle really in the full-back department, because you've got Sam Adekugbe, you've got Christian Gutierrez, you've got Alistair Johnston, Richie Larea, Kamal Miller. Some very, very strong full-backs in there, which is something I don't think Canada's had for a while. Centre-back does seem to be the weakest area of the defence right now. Daniil Henry is out injured in this. Midfield is strong. We've got Marc-Anthony Kaye in there, Samuel Piette, David Witherspoon. He's come over from Scotland for these games, showing his commitment to the programme, so that's great to see. And up front, you've got Lucas Cavallini, Alphonso Davies, Junior Hoylett, Kyle Larn and Liam Miller. So 3 Whitecaps involved in the squad: Crepeau, Gutierrez and Cavallini, so wish them all the best. It's a very strong squad. So the squad was finally announced on Tuesday morning. Head coach John Herdman had media availability as well, just to discuss some of the decisions that went into this. So I'm going to play you some select highlights from that conference call just now, just as John Herdman breaks down how this Canada squad was put together, what he's expecting of the guys, and a few other things as well.
These are unprecedented times. I know you've assembled squads from around the world more than a few times, but can you just tell us a little bit about what it was like pulling this one together?
Yeah, this has been an interesting period of time, I think, for anyone in the sport. I don't think anything's how it used to be, but we have got all the players that we need for this particular game. A couple of players that were unavailable, either through injury or some strict quarantine reasons. Jonathan David being one. Obviously, with the French quarantine rules, it made it very difficult to get the player back. And realistically, FIFA had mandated a 5-day maximum quarantine, and the French sit on a 7-day quarantine ruling. So that was a bit tricky, and I know Jonathan's gutted, but we'll see him later in the piece, hopefully, when some of these restrictions lift. And then Jonathan Osorio, that was a real tough one on Sunday. He picked up a slight injury in his last training session before leaving for camp. So yeah, he was a very late dropout, which brought Jaden Nelson into the fold on late notice. So they're probably the two that we'd penciled in for this camp that we really tried hard to get. And obviously with Jonathan, it was just a stroke of bad luck. And in terms of the realities, the realities, I have to say, with Canada Soccer, it's been a real team effort. If anyone was to understand the sort of processes to understand the quarantine rules, to even bring players in to the USA and find national interest exemptions and working with embassies in every one of the countries that these players came from, then working with the federations and the clubs to, ensure that they were confident in our protocols and they were confident that their players would be safe. And then underneath all of that, it's the players, being able to help them understand they're going to travel across the world, and you got to really empathize and take my hat off to these guys. They have families back home that are probably questioning their decisions to come halfway around the world at this time in their careers. And it just speaks volumes to, I think, one, the brotherhood and what they've created here and wanting to be part of something. And two, how serious they're taking this World Cup qualification campaign. So, massive respect to not only the staff at Canada Soccer for the work they've put in to bring these guys in, but also, to the players themselves. I mean, just tremendous commitment to represent their country.
I wanted to ask about Atiba because he's back in the team after a lengthy absence. Can you just sort of give your rationale about his inclusion, please?
Look, every camp we have the conversation. Every couple of weeks we're in touch with each other. He's just one of those guys that you always want to have part of your group. If you've ever worked with him, you realize he's got that Christine Sinclair-like presence. He's just one of those quiet, unassuming leaders, but you know when he's there and you know when he's not there. And I think he just brings a level of experience, a bit of an aura around his presence that young players look up to, but even the senior vets. And I think that's what's special with Atiba. He's got so much respect among those veterans like Junior Hoylett and Milan Bojan, Stephen Vittoria, that he sort of, he gives them someone to look up to. So for us, his presence is everything, but he's not one of those guys you're bringing into the environment because of his leadership abilities. You're bringing him in because he's on absolute fire in his club environment. And whenever you speak to him, John, it's the same answer to the question. If my body's good, I'll be in, John. I'm committed. I want to see this country move to the next level. I like what you've created here. I love the talent that's in the system. He wants to be part of it. But at times when these international windows come up, his body just isn't ready and he has to go into that sort of 2-week recovery mode to get him through his season. So, for him to come in, given that he's fighting to win a cup, fighting to win a championship, it just tells you, how important he sees his role within this team, but more importantly, the opportunity that sits in front of him and this country.
John, just on Alfonso, with his red card, did that impact his availability? And second, what can we read into with him being listed as a forward?
No, the red card didn't. We were able to secure national interest exemptions for a lot of these European players. So like I said, it's been a huge process. There was a sort of proclamation that came out from Joe Biden, which changed a few things, and then a few more changes to the rules just as we thought we'd got on top of that. So it wasn't until very recently we were able to secure these exemptions through help through the Canadian Olympic Committee, the US Olympic Committee, MLS. We've had all sorts of people working to ensure that, people from the Schengen region, which typically would have to take a 14-day stand down before they could enter America, could enter. So, Alfonso, he's been traveling around Germany, getting visas. I mean, he's put in a shift to be here. So that red card, I mean, I didn't think it was a red card, to be fair. He didn't mean it, bless him. But, that had nothing to do with it. That kid's mind's been pretty clear. And as an organisation, we never want to take a field with an MNT team without Alfonso Davies in it. So, and if you look at him, listed as a forward, that's the role he'll be playing in this environment. But as I said, he has that flexibility. So, in-game changes very quickly. He could start at fullback and, end up in a wide forward position. In some games, we can operate with more of a wing back. So, for us, I think he wants to be known when he wears his Canadian shirt as a forward. And, I'm happy to list him there. That's no problem. But where we play him, well, that always is a conversation between me and him, and then what the tactics are for the game.
If you can provide us with an update on Scott Arfield, because I know he's not in the camp, and I know Steven Gerrard made some headlines in October saying he's not going to international duty anymore. What's the situation with Scott in terms of his representation?
Yeah, thanks for that one, Steven Gerrard. I had Scott call us pretty quickly after saying, "Hey, I think the gaffer's dropped a bomb in the media." Yeah. No, I think with Scott, it's very clear. Like he was due to come into the Trinidad game in March, and he's been pretty vocal about his motivation in playing for Canada. Playing these Nations League games has been frustrating for him. Playing a lot of games against sort of, in his mind, and he's not being arrogant in any way, but I think in national team career, typically you would have friendly games in Europe. You would be able to play like Jamaica is, or the US. You'd be at Northern Ireland or play in Holland or Belgium. And that's part of the growth of an international player. Every game for 2 years was against a team you're beating 5-6-0. And then you get to a Gold Cup and you get one game against a Mexico. And I just think it's in people's minds, you've got to think of the motivation of these guys that have got to get on 13-hour flights. They've got to leave their families behind. COVID hits, and there's new realities there. And this guy is competing for a Scottish championship. He was competing in Europa League. He'd started picking up niggles, and one of his first injuries in his career was picked up, a little calf issue, because he'd come off the back of Europa League, came into our camp and picked up a little calf on international tour with us, playing against Dominica. So you can see there's a lot of factors that come into decisions with Scott. The one thing he's been very clear on is he's open-minded. He said this year, I'm committed to winning the title with Rangers. We want to have a good push in the Europa League. And I think if they'd won the title 3 weeks earlier, I think the earliest they could have won it was like March the 6th. And we were like, fingers crossed, it was going to happen even earlier if Celtic had dropped points, and then it was a different conversation. But I'm being very clear with Scott. He knows, you don't pick and choose at international level. The message that sends to players isn't great. But there are some pretty clear circumstances around him, and I don't think anyone questions his commitment, because he's turned up for USVI, he's turned up for Dominica, he turned up to 2 Gold Cups in a row. So I think when the time's right and his mind's right and his body's right, similar to Atiba, we'll see him pull that red shirt on again.
You kind of touched on it there about the fact that a lot of these guys in the squad, they haven't been playing, and the MLS guys, most of them haven't kicked a ball in anger since November. How much does that then go into things like your team selection, your game management for these guys, or do you just go with what you know and you know what they can do, whether they're up to speed or not?
Yeah, I think I don't want to give too much away, because I'm sure, Bermuda will be checking out these interviews. So, the selection will respect the context that we're in, and everything you've just raised there, given, again, we've only got 2 days real preparation, 2 training sessions. You've got to, go with guys that are confident, and they'll show that in training. You've got to go with guys that are in match rhythm and match readiness. And then obviously you've got to try and think about putting guys that have played together, guys that understand each other. So I think, Michael, it's if you were sitting on paper and start to map it out, it becomes probably a pretty obvious answer about, where these selections might be across the 2 games. But yeah, I don't want to give too much away at this stage.
And I wear it for my lady, the Canadian flag, baby.
Canadian men's national team head coach John Herdman there, talking all things Canada and the World Cup qualifiers that are coming up against Bermuda and the Cayman Islands. And I think whoever he puts out, you have to feel that Canada should comfortably get through these games. I know it's international football, you don't want to downplay anyone, but if we're talking about this generation of Canada being the golden generation, there's no way they should be struggling in games like these. So I foresee 2 comfortable victories. It's really just a case of getting some rhythm built up, getting some chemistry built up. It's kind of an extension really to the January camp, but just with some actual competitive games thrown in there. Now, the question that I asked John there at the end was really about the squad selection and kind of game management in these 2 matches. Now, I wasn't expecting him, obviously, to reveal anything as to who's going to go out there. That's a given that you're not going to get that. But what I was mostly meaning by my questions is, you've got guys just now, let's look up front. You've got Kyle Larin flying over in Turkey, banging the goals in, Herdman talked there that he doesn't really see him as an out-and-out striker, but you've got a guy like him in the form that he's in, and then can I compare that to Lucas Cavallini, who hasn't kicked a ball in anger since November. I mean, for me, normally, I would say Cava would get the start, but with the form that Laren's in and the fact that he's got playing time under his belt, he's got those legs, he's up to actual match fitness and the match sharpness that you need, you have to go for the likes of Laren in that starting lineup, bring Cava off the bench. And you've got a few other positions all over the park where you've got guys that have been playing regularly in Europe. It's like, do you give them the nod against maybe more experienced guys or guys that you've seen perform at the international level before but are playing in MLS? Or, for example, like Sam Adekugbe, who the season in Norway hasn't started yet. Guys like that where you're thinking, well, they're maybe not up to full match fitness. A bit of a quandary for John Herdman, but if anything, it's maybe going to give him a chance to look at some guys that maybe wouldn't normally be regular starters and then see if they grab that opportunity with both hands. So as I mentioned, 3 Whitecaps in the team: Cava, Guti and Max Crepeau. And I got a chance to sit down with Max Crepeau just before he headed off to Canada's camp last week. We're going to bring you that interview after this.
This is Atiba Hutchinson, and you're listening to the AFTN Show.
Шелковая киска гуляет во сне. Не достаешь, течет по спине. Уйду по-английски, попрыгай тут мне. Теплые пальцы на мокрой спине. Почистил итальянку, залетая в ее иномарку. Думаешь, я Санта, fuck you, сам хочу подарки. Хрен пойми, хрен пойми. Кто ты есть, белый хрен с горы. Сиет Камилу с Алабамы. Здесь нет места для рекламы. Что ты можешь дать мне, кроме горь тупого спама? Мех, пух, целый двух. Передоз, целуй в засос. Стальные трубы, целый грубо. Магазин, драчи один.
Скаться, леди, дырка в центре. Бэмби, скаться, леди, дырка в центре. Бэмби.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's the latest song from this month's Artist of the Month here at AFTN. Russian hard bass band DLB with a song from their 2019 album of the same name. That was Skies. So as we mentioned in the last part, 3 Whitecaps in the senior men's national team roster for these 2 games coming up in the World Cup qualifying against Bermuda and the Cayman Islands. Between the sticks, Maxime Crepeau. Now you have to feel with Milan Borjan coming over for these games he is going to get the start, but maybe you wouldn't be too surprised if you see maybe Milan getting one game, Maxime getting another. I mean, who can say? But I mean, all we do know right now is that the goalkeeping talent in the Canadian national team setup from top senior team level all the way down under 17s, even under 15s, is quite exceptional at the moment. And Max is just one of those guys. So he's going to have a battle for years to come to try and claim that starting spot for Canada. He's got a battle as well this season to make sure he keeps on to his starting spot and be the Whitecaps number 1. Certainly going to be a tough pre-season with Evan Newton and Thomas Hasal pushing him hard for that starting jersey. So I got a chance to sit down with Max last week, just before he was set to head off with the Canada camp. But we did talk a bit about Canada. We talked about the Whitecaps season to come, the season past as well, and everything that went on with his fractured thumb, and a lot more besides. So it's our feature interview in this episode of the AFTN Soccer Show. So go put the kettle on, make yourself your favourite hot beverage, grab a biscuit of choice. I recommend digestives, obviously. Sit back and enjoy our chat with Whitecaps keeper and Canadian keeper Maxime Crepeau. good to be back at training? You're just happy to be back on that pitch again?
Oh yeah, definitely. It feels good because, especially with the negotiations with the CBA, it took like a little longer than we expected because the league wanted to review our work contract, and then it went to the negotiation table. Even got delayed 3 days. Well, we started with a week, 3 days, and then 1 day. And so after that, the first week that we got like official preseason, it felt great because everyone was in. A few guys, new signings, yes, waiting on visas, quarantining, or away with Olympic team right now. So we don't have the full team yet, but it does really feel good that to be out there, just being in our own building at the facility, being on our grass field, which is nice because usually we're on turf here. At that time of the season, we're on the turf. Now it's a little bit warmer. We can use the grass, and so it's nice.
I don't want to dwell too much on last season because I don't like looking back too much when we've got a season ahead. Got to talk about your injury though. Like when it happened in that game against Seattle, did you know right away that it was going to be a bad one?
No. So yeah, I agree with you. Like I'm always looking forward, not too much dwelling on the past, but like I mentioned that too as well in preseason, where it's like year 3 of rebuild. Like 2019 was rebuild, and 2020 for various reasons was a wild year with the pandemic that pretty much hit worldwide around March. But now 2021 is really a year where we need to have some fruits of what did you actually put the work in the last 2 years and so on. So you need to have a product that says, oh, wow, there's been a project. And it took some time, but it worked. And for my thumb personally, as it happened, I remember the ref went to me and asked me if I was fine. And I told him, give me 2 seconds. It took more than 2 seconds. It took 2 seconds. And then I like usually when I get hit, there's a pain, sharp pain. And then the pain, instead of decreasing, was just increasing. And it was like, all right, I'm out of here. Get Tommy ready. And so as soon as I went off the pitch and I felt a little bit nauseous, I was like, oh man, this thing is broken for sure. And I didn't know at what time it was the wrist, the thumb, the hand, no idea. But I know it was considerable, yeah.
Yeah, it's in the past now. I mean, you're fully fit. You're good to go. It's an interesting battle now with the Whitecaps in terms of goalkeeping. Now, I mean, last year was crazy. I've never, in all my years of watching and covering football, I've never known a club have so many goalkeepers come through and play games. This season, definitely a battle. Yourself, Thomas, Evan Newton's come in, and I know it's going to be like circumstances for some of you because maybe away with Canada, Gold Cup in the summer, Thomas could be away with the Olympic team. But I mean, how's this battle been so far in the pre-season? Are you all kind of like pushing yourself to the max?
Of course, that's what preseason is for as well. It's not only preparing the body and preparing either technical, get back to your little details and into your rhythm, but it's mostly about pushing ourselves in each other. And so when in training, we have a good group, a tight group, and when we pick on the little details that we can do better, instead of it just like being in the shadow and just being a little bit silent about it, no, we're talking about it instead and to bring the quality of the group better. And so we all work on details that we can get better, but so far it's been good. The group has been tight. It's been light as well in terms of how atmosphere and how things can be on the field. Yes, we're all competing for a spot, but in the meantime, it's important to keep things light and joyful because at the end of the day, we're on the field and we're having good humans and good relationships. It's not a contest of putting a knife in the back of anyone, which in different clubs, sometimes it happens, obviously. And so we got good individuals, so that's nice.
It's also the weird situation that there's not many guys at training and there's 4 of you as goalkeepers. So have you had a chance to play outfield, or are you just concentrating on the goalkeeping stuff?
Just the goalkeeping stuff. That's my bread and butter. So that's it. I'll keep it simple.
I actually, just a complete aside, I don't know if you've heard today, the Olympic qualifiers are underway. Haiti hadn't got all their COVID tests done in time, so they're only allowed to play half their team. So they've got 10 outfield players, and an outfield player has to be the goalkeeper because they don't have a goalkeeper that's like...
Yeah, I saw that while I was having lunch, actually. So
crazy stuff. But
that's the reality we're in, like kind of sort of bubble in competitions like this. And we never know what the hell can happen, actually. You got to be on your toes, because with that kind of situation, it can flip a second. You have no results back in time. Well, who's responsible? Lab, team? I don't know. we don't know that. But there's always a factor of unknown, and unknown needs to be proactive and not reactive. So it's always on your toes and ready to adapt and overcome. Basically, that's the reality we're in.
Yeah, I mean the game's just like changed drastically now with everything. Like my team in Scotland had been suspended for a while. They're getting back at it from tomorrow, and they're going to be playing 4 games in 8-day periods. Mm-hmm. So it's like every 2 days they've got games coming. I mean, that's just like crazy. Obviously, yourselves, you're having to relocate again down to Utah. It was Portland last year, Utah this year. I had a brief chat with Thomas about this because I wasn't sure, and then he said something, so I thought I'll delve into it a little bit more with you. Altitude and how that affects you as a goalkeeper. He had said that he notices from like just being down there and playing before that the ball really moves differently. Is it a big difference as a goalkeeper playing in altitude?
2 cities, yes. 1, yes. It affects the movement of the balls, definitely. It travels way faster than normal altitude, where it's like 0 meters from the sea. But now Colorado and Salt Lake, 2 cities in the league, you can see ball just keep going, and if you hit with a little bit of pace, it just keeps on traveling. And so same with the knuckle ball. The knuckle, if you had a good player who knows how to hit them, you'll need to train them to see it, because out of their blue, Blanco, he's recovering from his knee. He might be good to go for the season, the beginning of the season, which is our first opponent, and he knows how to hit those balls. And in that altitude, the ball will even travel faster and might go up, down, left, right. In a way, it's non-predictable. So these are all little things that you need to work on. But yeah, it does affect the goalkeeper in the sense of got to move faster and read the play really faster than the usual, which is at our advantage because we'll be there for a while.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. It's like, it certainly seems like this could be an advantage. I know RSL and Colorado have certainly benefited over the years from playing there. I'd spoken to a couple of guys, Scottish guys, that had played, one in RSL and one in Colorado as well, in MLS, and they both said they'd never been fitter. Like, when they got there, it was like, it took them a couple of weeks to get used to it, but that was the fittest they had ever been in their life.
Exactly, because it's heavier, you got to breathe more, less oxygen, basically. So you got to breathe more and get more oxygen into the lungs, into the blood, into your muscles. So yeah, it is. It's not. We're not saying this just for fun. It's science, so it's proven.
Now let's turn our attentions to Canada. We're recording this on Friday the 19th, so the squad's not been announced yet for the upcoming World Cup games. But you were involved in that camp back in January. First time back in action for a couple of months. But I mean, how good was that for you personally, but also for this group of guys to get those sort of interactions, get some rhythm going, get some chemistry going?
Yeah, it was great because for me personally, I was ready. I started to, after Portland, basically, I took, I really never really stopped because I kept my rehab going with my thumb. I think I trained 2 weeks with the full team down in Portland, and the season ended. Came back, did some rehab. December 15, I started back on the field doing some specific work, goalkeeping work, and then in January I got called up, and it was great because that's the live actions with the teams and the real speed of the ball definitely helped me to be confident about where I am today, and it felt good about myself because it's a process of, all right, I'm fully back now. It's in the past, my thumb. So that January camp allowed me to put that behind me, and it was great to see real ball action and speed. And as for the group, it's fantastic to have. It wasn't all the European players, so it wasn't a full squad. It was only the North American with some of the European players, but none of the guys that which are first team and playing every week in, week out. So now it's going to be the full squad all together for the first time in over a year because of the pandemic. It's going to be a short period, 2 games a week, and so we do our homeworks. We do our homeworks at home for once we get all together. Well, we know exactly where we left up. We picked up, and we have to keep going like this. 2 important games, and then there's the round 1, and then it's the round 2, and then Gold Cup is coming. So it's a big year for the national team because all the games were suspended last year, so it's a condensed schedule.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like the road to Qatar, it's such a long one for you guys because of the way that this works out. You look at these first 2 games coming up, Bermuda, Cayman Islands. On paper, it should be comfortable. I know it's always dangerous to say that in international football, and no matter who is able to come over with COVID stuff, you would hope that the Canadian squad is strong enough to get past those 2 teams. But it's a grueling schedule as well, because you've got the Gold Cup, and then you've got hopefully the other World Cup qualifiers. You've got to balance kind of being at club level and stuff as well. This could be, I guess, a year that you find yourself playing more games than ever before.
Totally agree. And I think as the years goes in advance, it'll be like this more and more, we look at the European fixtures, and the guys that are in the national team, they have maybe 5 days off a week, maximum 2 weeks in a year, and then whoop, they go again. So I agree, but as I personally get older, and the road to Qatar and then 2026, as that road arrives, well, of course, level is going to be higher. No team's going to be easy to play. And then at the end of the day, that's real international football. That's the real level you want to be. You don't want to be in a place where you're comfortable and you have few days off a year and you get 4 days there and 3 days there. It doesn't exist in real football. You look at all the guys in the Prem, as for example, or the League One or Bundesliga, they have no break. They have maybe 2 or 3 week max, and that's it. So I think that's the mindset that here in North America we need to get, because off season in the MLS that can go up to 3 months is a lot, basically.
I think it was Cava. He was asked about the quality of the squad. Everyone knows this is a cream of the crop of Canadian talent. It's like one of the best generations of Canadian footballers. But ultimately, you can only call them that if you get the results on the pitch and you do reach World Cups and you do well at the big tournaments. Is that how all you guys basically look at it?
Yeah. I mean, from inside the player pool, we know it's a quality one, and that chart is full on every single position. It's that's what it's exciting about the new generation. Like, we have a nice fit of veterans with plenty of experience, a nice fit of mid guys that have been there for a while but are not considerable like vets yet. I look at myself, I'm a little bit like this. Since I'm 18, I'm with the group, but I'm still in between because I don't have that international experience at 100%. I'm still beginning international level. While Milan, for example, he's a vet, right? He's there for a long time, and he's proven with numbers and with performances over the years. And then we got the quality, young talent quality of the 22 and below years of age, right? So it's exciting because of the depth chart, but exactly it comes down to result. Who are you playing? Who are you beating? At the end of the day, that's how people understands, respect you, and you realize that we have a good team and good generation. It's who you're playing, who you're beating.
So I know, Max, you're going to be a father soonish. Yep. Is it June that the baby's due?
June 8th, yes.
How does this fit in with everything that you're doing down in Utah and being away possibly at the Gold Cup? And
oh yeah, the reaction, the way you ask the question is exactly how everything happens and fits together. It's a lot of questions, a lot of preparations, a lot of questions, but you gotta get the answers to it. So you knock on doors, get the answers, and you go from there. You can't really say, oh damn, there's too many things going on. There is actually, but one day at a time, going through, get the answers, move on. So Christina's gonna come. We're expecting down in Salt Lake. We have the medical care down there, and then few weeks old baby. Our little daughter will arrive, and then Gold Cup will arrive. So I'll be away for weeks, maybe, if knock on wood, life is good. And I'm there with the team, and everything works well. But yeah, that's the plan of this year, and then. It's a minimum of 3 months down in Salt Lake. We don't know with the governments because you know how it is. The situation, COVID situation, evolves every week, and so minimum 3 months. But maybe July, August, are we coming back here? Sometimes are the borders reopening? There's a vaccine question mark as well with the league because I know the NBA is getting vaccinated. Plenty of stuff, right? So yes, we're going 1 week, one moment at a time. We have a plan in place and we go from there, but we cannot project ourselves too much ahead because we got to take care of what's to be done today and tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't envy you at all with all of that, and yeah, you'll probably get the vaccine before most of us here, so at least that's a good thing for you.
Yeah, let's see how the league handles this. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, fingers crossed anyway, and fingers crossed as well that we do get to actually see you back up here in the summer or end of the season or whatever.
September, BC Place, game home.
Oh,
how magic would it be, yeah?
Good luck, and we'll talk soon, and hopefully at some point we'll see you in person this year.
Oh yeah, hopefully. Like September, BC Place, I called it out.
Excellent. Cheers, Max. Take care.
All right. See you.
Bye.
Take care, man.
Great stuff there from Max Crepeau. Always love chatting to Max, and he's certainly got a battle ahead of him for Canada, for the Whitecaps, and I think it's just gonna to bring him to the top of his game. And we saw what Max is capable of in that 2019 season. I mean, it just feels so long ago now, but the saves that he pulled off, that game against San Jose where he set the record for the most saves in a game, triple save in the game against Atlanta, some other highlight reel saves as well. Just all in all, absolutely fantastic stuff. But there is definitely some guys nipping at his heels to get those minutes for the Whitecaps this year. And we're going to be hearing from another one of those goalkeepers, keeping the Canadian theme going, and that is Thomas Hasal, and he'll be coming up in part 4 of the show. We'll also be turning our attention to Canada's quest to reach the Olympics in Tokyo and the matches played so far by the Canadian under-23s. But before all of that, it's time to hop in the TARDIS once again, and we'll be back doing just that after this.
Hi, I'm Alphonso Davies, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio, 101.9 FM. And kicking off this song, we're continuing this month's Russian music selection on the show. If anyone doesn't know why, I'll explain that in a sec for you. But that was from 2017, and in a tweet that shocked me, actually turned out to be province writer JJ Adams' favourite Russian hard-bass techno artist, DJ Blyatman. That was his song Gopnik. JJ says it's all about the Gopnik for him, which surprised me really, because I never had him down as that kind of a guy. Definition in English of Gopnik, it's what in Scotland we call Neds. It's what in England they call chavs. I guess it's kind of guys that just like to hang about, cause trouble, drink in the streets, wear their tracksuits, especially Adidas tracksuits, stuff like that. Hey, nice of JJ to share that with everyone. That was from DJ Blyatman's 2017 album, Hardkaz. You're learning so many Russian things on this show this month. I guess it kind of ties in with talking about Canada and World Cup, since the last World Cup was in Russia. I've only got into this a few years ago, then I could have gone over, enjoyed these bands in person. So if anyone is wondering why we are playing Russian music on the show this month, if you missed the earlier episodes, I was explaining that it was just one of the weird things that I have got into during lockdown. All stemmed from accidentally stumbling over some music, some videos on YouTube by Russian punk rap band Moscow Death Brigade. Went out and bought their 3 CDs. Well, I didn't go out, I ordered it from their record company in Germany. Ordered their 3 CDs, a t-shirt, and then it just kind of took me down this little rabbit hole of other Russian music of various genres. So when we talked about that a couple of weeks ago on the show, I threw it out there to ask people, what kind of weird, wonderful, wacky stuff have you got into during the last year of COVID? So I'll read you a few more of those responses just now. Brenton Akasa, caps offside, said, gumboots, digging, and tons of football shirts. My co-host of the East 5 podcast that we do, Glory Days of Gold, Lee, he has also got very into football shirts in the last year as well. Tim Altman, at Progio1, says, I learned how to solve the Rubik's Cube, learning French, delved into documentaries about the American Civil War and the Zodiac Killer, and trying to maintain growing my COVID beard. Peter Zimmerman said, I watched a lot of Premier League matches. Yes, for me, this counts as obscure. And rather weirdly, I found myself watching less Premier League matches. It's weird. Like, if you ask me what the table looked like just now, I genuinely don't think I could tell you. Peter also said, I started watching City Skylines videos on YouTube, subscribed to way too many city builder content, currently trying to figure out the optimal playback speed option at which I can still comprehend English and not waste too much time. And if anyone doesn't know, City Skylines, it's a city building video game. At Real Kevbo said, Transport Fever gameplay vids are also fantastic. Minhung Lee said, GME and AMC stocks. What a roller coaster. Keep them coming in if you want to add to this any weird and wonderful things that you've got onto during the pandemic, and let us know as well if you plan to stay into them as the pandemic hopefully slowly comes to an end. So we'll be back talking Canadian national team in the next part of the show when we turn our attentions to the under-23s and the Olympic qualifying. But for this part, we're keeping the national team theme going, but instead of looking to the present and the future, we're going back in time, as it's time to jump in the TARDIS for some more football time-travelling adventures. And who are we doing it with this week? Why, it's only the second all-time leading scorer for the Canadian men's national team, Whitecaps forward Tosaint Ricketts. Where's he going to take me to in the TARDIS this week? So I'm a big fan of Doctor Who, and it just got me thinking, if I could jump into the TARDIS and go back in time to see any 3 football matches from the history of football, what matches would I pick to go and see? So I picked 2 of the cup wins that my team in Scotland East Fife had done, and the very first ever World Cup final, because just to be there would be a momentous occasion. So when we're asking players this, we're kind of asking you to kind of have a think back. It could be a game that you played in. It could be a game that you went to as a fan. It could be a game that you wish you'd played in. Or it could be just a historic occasion like the first ever World Cup that you would just love to be there. So if you could go back in time and pick 3 matches, what 3 matches kind of instantly come to your mind that you'd love to go and watch as a fan?
As a fan, I think I go back to 2000 when Canada won the Gold Cup, right?
Yeah.
I think that was a special time. You know, I know a lot of players that were involved in that run, in that campaign. I heard so many stories, and I think it would be nice to go back and see Canada win something significant. And so that's definitely one. Another one, I would go back to the second leg of Montreal versus TFC. I would like to be in the stands watching that game because, you know, it was, I don't know if you remember the series.
Yeah, that was amazing.
I think about it now and I get goosebumps. It was like, wow, just both legs, you know, being down. The atmosphere was cold, rainy. It was up and down. They had the lead. We came back. So many goals. It was like such an emotional night. And I think as a fan, I've heard many fans say that was one of the best games they've ever seen. And they still talk about it till today. So that was definitely a special one. And the last one would definitely be any World Cup game that Pelé was in. You can name anyone, you know. I would just like to see the dynamic, you know, back in those times when, you know, he was getting chopped and, you know, they were killing him and the pitches were bad and the shorts were high and it's dirty with the copas. And it's just the true grind of soccer when conditions aren't great, but still magic is happening on the pitch. So I would love to see Pelé play in a World Cup.
Yeah, Axel picked Pelé as well, just any game from Pelé. It's weird when I think back that Pelé played in Vancouver in the old NASL days. And he actually...
Forgot about that.
But it's like that whole era just fascinates me, all those big guys that came over here to play, and I'd have loved to have seen him play as well. I never got to see Maradona play. I was lucky enough to go and see Messi play when he was down in Seattle when they had the Copa America down there. And I briefly saw him come on as a sub in that, but that's 3 great selections. And a few of our fans have picked that Gold Cup game as well. It's, again, way before my time, but I've kind of watched videos of it, and it's just... It's weird to think, I guess, that was the last big achievement for Canada.
Yeah.
You'd have thought with all the players that we've had and that have come through, we would have done something else, but no.
Yeah, I'm dying to see something else like that happen for Canada. And yeah, I think it's on the horizon. You know, we're trending in the right direction. Players are getting into great markets, doing big things overseas. Alfonso, Jonathan David, Kyle Aaron killing it in Besiktas right now. Atiba's still going strong at Besiktas as well. And I'm really hoping for something big to happen in the future.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Scotland's finally got to their first big tournament in 22 years, so if that can happen, it can happen for Canada as well.
Right.
So some great selections there from Tosaint Ricketts, travelling back in the TARDIS to take in some football matches from the past. I think a lot of Canadian fans would love to go back and witness that special 2000 Gold Cup win. Crazy to think 20 years have passed and that's the last major trophy that Canada has won. Could that be about to change in 2021? I guess we'll maybe find out in the summer. But if Canada can certainly string all their results together, get their full squad playing to their max, then mean, they've got to be amongst the favourites for this summer's Gold Cup. But I'm really enjoying doing these TARDIS time travel adventures. We want to know yours as well. If you haven't submitted your 3 matches that you would love to go back in time to witness in person, get them to me on Twitter at AFTN Canada or send my email aftncanada@hotmail.com. And we will get back talking about Canada shortly, but for now it's time for this episode's wavelength. And if you've been regularly listening to the show, you will know that it's Football Violence Awareness Month here at AFTN, and we're continuing our songs to celebrate the month with an artist that I was going to say you maybe wouldn't expect to have a song about football hooligans, but maybe you would if you've known about some of his maybe more controversial political takes in recent years. And that is Morrissey, former lead singer of the Smiths. And this is a song from his 1992 solo album, Your Arsenal. And it's kind of all about the psyche of the football hooligan and the football supporter. This is called We'll Let You Know.
How sad are we, and how sad have we been? We'll let you know, we'll let you know, oh, but only if you're really interested. You wonder how we've stayed alive till now. We'll let you know, we'll let you know, but only if you're really interested. We're all smiles, then honest, I swear it's the turnstiles that make us hostile. Oh, oh. We will descend on anyone unable to defend themselves. Oh, 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 oh. And the songs we sing, they're not supposed to mean a thing. La 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 la
Morrissey there, We'll Let You Know, from his 1992 album Your Arsenal. Song there all about the psyche of football supporters, football hooligans. Take what you want from those lyrics. But let's get back more to the football chat now. And in the last part, we brought you our chat with Maxime Crepeau of Vancouver Whitecaps and Canada. And as we talked about there, from a Vancouver perspective, he's got a couple of guys nipping at his heels, trying to get that starter's jersey. Evan Newton, experienced goalkeeper who's come in from Indy 11 in the USL, former USL Goalkeeper of the Year with FC Cincinnati. Spoke to him a couple of shows ago, and I mean, he's just itching to get going, itching to try and get his first MLS minutes under his belt. Then you've also got the young up-and-comer, Thomas Hasal, the 21-year-old Saskatchewan native. And of course, I'm sure you don't need reminding, but Crepeau and Hasal were 2 of 4 Whitecaps goalkeepers that saw MLS minutes last season. Hasal coming on to replace Max Crepeau in the MLS's Back tournament in Orlando in July, making his MLS debut as a sub against Seattle Sounders. And he actually ended up leading the way in terms of appearances for the Whitecaps goalkeepers last year with 10. Evan Bush had 8, Max Crepeau had 4, and Brian Meredith had 3. Crazy, crazy stuff. As I said there, never seen a season like it before in all my years of watching football, to have that many goalkeepers go down with a variety of injuries. And it was a great opportunity for Hasal, but unfortunately he suffered a fractured tibia and a concussion in September, ruled him out for the rest of the season. But like Max, he's back, healthy, raring to go, maybe not fully up to match fitness, and that was one of the reasons that he hasn't gone away with the Canadian under-23 Olympic squad just now for the qualification down in Mexico. More on that later. But it's another big season for Thomas Hasal. I mean, he basically came, I don't want to say from nowhere, because anyone that's watched him in the academy knows what a talent he was and that he was a top prospect for the Whitecaps for the future. But I don't think many people really expected him to get playing time last year. Now, he probably wouldn't have if there hadn't been the death in Brian Meredith's family that called him away from the MLS's Back tournament, along with Max's freak fractured thumb injury. But as we say with all these young guys, when you get your opportunity, you have to take it, and he certainly did that. But he still has a lot to learn. You saw that in the MLS games he played. Needs to work a little bit on maybe commanding the box, his punching, it's what you'd expect a young 21-year-old goalkeeper to have to work on. And he's only really fully going to be able to work on that in competitive matches. Now, the Whitecaps don't have a USL team. The chances of the under-23 squad getting any meaningful matches is also going to be pretty nil, you have to feel, all year. So for Thomas Hasal, it's a case of either he pushes Max Crepeau to the extent that he claims the number 1 starter's jersey, or if it does look like he's not going to be getting many minutes this year, I think Mark DeSantis has kind of addressed this as well, not just specifically about Thomas Hasal, but with a number of the young players in the squad just now. The only real thing is to get him loaned out, get him into a competitive match day environment, get those minutes under his belt, and that's the only way you're going to learn. That's exactly what Max Crepeau did. Montreal sent him to Ottawa Fury, won Goalkeeper of the Year honours in the USL with Ottawa, came back to MLS then with the Whitecaps, and we saw what he produced in 2019 on the back of that. But those discussions are for another day. So I want to bring you a little bit of audio just now. Got a chance to speak to Thomas Hasal, I think a couple of weeks ago now, just about his recovery, getting ready for playing, the Canadian situation, and a few other things as well. Looking back on last season, it was obviously a bit of a roller coaster for you. You came in to the starting lineup, then you got injured. How do you look back on last season for you from a personal level?
Yeah, from a personal level, I look at last season as something that I'm extremely proud of. It's a moment in time that I spent the last 7 years working towards. But furthermore, now I look at it as something to build off of and to use that experience to be even better and to grow from it.
This season's obviously, there's a really good goalkeeping battle brewing between yourself and Maxime and Evan. Can you just talk a little bit about that and just how the three of you are kind of pushing each other right now at training?
Yeah, all three of us are pushing each other. We all want to do what's best for the club. We all want to play. Of course, we all want to be the starter for the club. And right now in preseason is a battle. So every single day we're out there pushing and just trying to be the best that we can every single day, and we push each other doing that.
Being down in Utah, the altitude and everything like that, does that make it different for a goalkeeper as to how you play, how you handle the ball and various things like that?
Yeah, actually, the last game that I played last season was in Salt Lake, and noticing just the altitude, the ball moves a bit quicker for us. So for us, it's staying sharp, seeing the ball. I know in the warm-up it was, okay, let's get used to the ball. How does it travel on cross balls? How does it travel off volleys? How does it travel off the foot? So us being down there, I think it'll be a cool experience, and it'll be a new way to learn how the ball moves in high altitudes and get used to it.
The Canadian Olympic squad obviously came out yesterday. You went on it, which surprised a lot of people. I don't know, you might not be able to say too much, but what were those discussions like? Because I know you've been involved in the senior mix as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, obviously, anytime you get called up to represent your country, it's an enormous honor. It's something that myself and my family, we have extreme pride in. But just speaking with the club about it, we wanted to make sure we did things right, and they have my best interest in mind. So we wanted to make sure after taking these months off with the injury that we did everything the proper way. And unfortunately, with the off season, I didn't have a chance to train with the full team. So again, the club wanted to protect me and wanted to make sure that I got back to my best in the correct way. Because of that, I'm looking forward to joining the group once they qualify for the World Cup and being at my best. So
that's great. Thanks so much, Thomas. Good luck.
Thank you guys so much.
Vancouver Whitecaps and Canadian national team goalkeeper Thomas Hasal there. And undoubtedly, if Canada do make it to the Olympics in Tokyo in the summer, Hasal is, I would say, a lock to be part of that squad. But in international football, you can never be 100% certain, but you have to think that he will be involved in that. Definitely a quality keeper. Whether he would be the starter, though, for the under-23s, but you have to think probably not right now, because of the form down in these Olympic qualifiers of Montreal Impact, I was going to say, but CF Montreal goalkeeper James Pantemis. Outstanding second half performance from Pantemis in Monday's second game against Haiti. Haiti pushed so hard to get a goal and kind of keep their qualification hopes alive in that second half, and Pantemis brought out a string of top saves in the 0-0 draw. And as we said before, it's just another indicator of how strong the goalkeeping pool is for Canada right now. In the senior national team squad, just in this particular one, you've got Milan Borjan, Maxime Crepeau, Dane St. Clair, three keepers that have been playing outstandingly for their clubs in the last couple of seasons. At under-23 level, James Pantemis standing on his head there against Haiti. Thomas Hasal not travelling down to these Olympic qualifiers in Mexico. Did so well with the Whitecaps last year when he came in. Down at under-17, under-15 level, there's some strong goalkeepers coming through there as well. So I just want to play a little bit of audio just now from Canada under-23 head coach Mauro Biello. I just asked him just about how he feels about the strong goalkeeping core within the Canadian setup right now. An exceptionally strong performance from James Pantemis in goal for you today. Some big saves. Can you talk a little bit about him and his performance, and also just the strength that goalkeeping position seems to have for Canada just now at all levels of the programme?
Yeah, I think fantastic game for James. He came up big for us in those moments, and that's what all great goalkeepers do, is to be able to make that key save in those right moments. And today, they had a couple of good chances that he was able to bail us out in, and credit to the other keeper, made a couple of saves also on their end. But in terms of the program, yeah, we got a good depth of goalkeepers in Canada at the moment, from the top to the bottom, and it's exciting for this country to see how many good keepers are coming up through the ranks.
And Mauro Biello's certainly right there. I mean, it's such a strong goalkeeping pool that Canada's got from top to bottom right now in the men's system, and it's fantastic to see. It's sad in many ways as well, because there's only one guy can be playing, and if he's your main guy, he's going to be the guy that's getting the bulk of minutes. But the talent in that position, the talent that we've produced through the years in Canada, here in Vancouver as well, it's been exceptional. And for guys like Pantemis and Hasal, as I talked about there a bit before I played you the chat with Thomas Hasal, these guys need to get minutes. They're in the key stage of their development. Pantemis is 24 now. He needs to be starting games. And is he going to dislodge Clement Diop at Montreal? I don't know if he is, but form like he showed down against Haiti, I mean, you never know. He could win it on the training ground. But these guys have to go out and get minutes. That's exactly what Pantemis did last year. Went and played with Valor in the Island Games tournament in the CPL and kind of shone during that tournament. And it's just as well that he was in top form, because Canada certainly needed him against Haiti in their second of the Olympic qualifying games on Monday. A 0-0 draw. At the time, you thought, well, there was a couple of ways you could take it. 0-0 against Haiti. On paper, you think these are the teams we should be beating. But I think Haiti have shown what a strong group of young players they've got coming through at the moment. That first game where they lost 3-0 to Honduras, you can't take anything from that. They had players missing because the COVID results hadn't come back. They had an outfield player, a central defender, in goal in that game as well. And he still only had one save to make. Well, I guess he had 4 technically because he let 3 of them in. But you know what I mean. But that game, you can't take much from. The game against Haiti, first half, Canada dominated. It was all Haiti in the second half. Haiti certainly could have got quite a few goals. Pantemis was in top form. Canada could have got a few goals as well. How that match finished 0-0, I do not know. It was a fantastic end-to-end entertaining match. If you haven't seen it, try and check out the highlights at least. Some great stuff in that game. But then you thought, well, it's leaving Canada second in the group on 4 points. You kind of thought with the goals that Honduras had put past Haiti that no matter what, going into this third group game on Thursday against Honduras, Canada were probably going to be going in second anyway, behind on goal difference. So they were going to have to win against Honduras anyway to claim first spot in the group. And that's exactly how it now looks. But not in the way that we were expecting, because Honduras and El Salvador played out a 1-1 draw in the second of the Group B matches on Monday, leaving the group finely balanced. Canada and Honduras, 4 points. Haiti and El Salvador, 1 point each. Could all come down to goal difference. Whoever wins the game between Haiti and El Salvador on Thursday could do enough to finish second in the group, depending on the result between Canada and Honduras. I mean, I think you still have to favour Canada and Honduras as going through 1 and 2, but as we talked about before and we talked about in our extra podcast, Canada do not want to finish second in the group, or probably don't want to finish second, because that is going to set up a showdown with Mexico, you would think, unless the USA pull off a big shock and beat Mexico on Wednesday. So Canada really has to go for it in this final game on Thursday, get the win against Honduras. It's going to be tough. Players are tired. They're going to be run a little bit into the ground. So I'm just going to round off this episode with a little bit of audio from Mauro Biello, just talking about what to look forward to for the game against Honduras. The first game that Honduras had against Haiti, I don't know how much you can take from that because of the circumstances. From what you saw in the second game, is that more what you are expecting from this Honduras side in this one?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, everybody could, that first game could cancel out. I think we all saw what happened in the first game with Haiti, having a field player in nets. starting the game with 10 men, playing 30 minutes with a man down, not knowing if they had any subs at any point. So, that game went in Honduras' favor. I think the second half was a better indication. It was a 0-0 score against Honduras. But for sure, the Honduran team that we're facing today, I think, has also a very good defense, very physical, technical team. I think they're more physical than El Salvador. There's a few elements there on that team that we have to keep a close eye on in terms of quality, in terms of athleticism. So there is those challenges, a lot of similarities, I think, the way they play with us, after analyzing them. But again, it'll be a difficult game, no doubt. It's a team that for sure wants to win the same way we do. They had that opportunity like we did, and it didn't happen for them. These are things that happen in tournaments. So now this game will be the decisive game to see who could win the group.
The scenario, if Haiti and El Salvador draw before you guys, and then you're through to the semifinals, if that happens, would that change your approach at all to this match?
Absolutely. There is some factors there that we have to consider. For sure, it's always to win, but I need to be able to manage that, right? And in the best way possible, where, my subs plan has to be where we know we're in, we don't want to enter that next round on empty versus the two top teams, one of the two top teams. And I think that's where we have to be good at in now managing the game once we know that clarity of the first of that game before us. Is, could there be subs at half? Could there, what is our game going to look like? Where are we at? Do we push this game to try to finish top of the group? Or is it best to have freshness? So look, these are what we're going through as a staff. It's not easy because again, there's so many factors, whether it's players' fitness, different players have knocks, the yellow cards, opponents. So look, we're working on that, and then for me to tell you something that's black and white, I can't. It's not right now, but we are looking at different scenarios and what is the best solution for us at that point, and hopefully we'll come out of this game against Honduras in the right way and have the best players available and freshness for that semifinal.
Mauro Biello there. Looking forward to Thursday. It is a fantastic day if you're a voyageur, if you're a Canadian soccer team fan. You've got the senior men's national team going at 5 o'clock, taking on Bermuda in World Cup qualifying. Soon as that finishes, the under-23s taking on Honduras in a must-win game. A draw would be enough, but to really, really keep the qualification hopes alive, a must-win game in the Olympic qualifiers. Can they do it? Well, we'll find out, and we'll be chatting about it in the next AFTN Soccer Show. But that is it for this episode. Thank you for joining us for another show. Hope you've enjoyed it. A Canadian men's national team themed show. I've been Michael McCall. You can follow me on Twitter at AFTN Canada. Get in touch there as well, or send us an email, aftncanada@hotmail.com. Give us a like, a subscribe, and a thumbs up, please, on YouTube. Definitely give us a follow there. We've got some more stuff coming out on that channel soon. We need to get the subscribers up as well. We've got to try and get to 1,000 so we can maybe get some monetization going for the channel and for the site as well. We're just at 379, I think it is just now. Haven't really pushed that too hard over the years. So youtube.com/AFTN Canada. Please subscribe on there. But that is it for this show. We'll be back soon. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and Allez, les Rouges.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.